Greetings, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We're linked from around the world, focusing our group intention of the common good. We meet weekly following the rhythm of moon to meditate, reflect, and share our impressions together. Today is the first day of distribution for the Sagittarius festival. And therefore, we use this opportunity to bring our group focus upwards towards the hierarchy, inquiring for guidance and direction as we meditate on common good. Following our preparatory meeting, the topic that was suggested for us to hold in this cycle of Sagittarius is directing will and vision, uplifting the whole. This will be our focus for the next 2 weeks till the new moon, when we will bring the most resonant seeds of our recognitions to form thought forms that we will magnetize and radiate with the power of our group meditation into the mental field of humanity to support its evolutionary path to the fires of awakening and purification. Let us start. And as always, we begin with sounding this purpose of our work, which today Tracy will sound for us. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Alexander, and thank you everybody for being here today as we continue our work. Our group's purpose is to magnetize the ideas of common good, freedom, and brotherhood as the highest values of humanity at this time. We recognize and cherish diversity of perspectives in our group, creating a space capable of invoking, receiving, interpreting, and radiating a higher synthetic vision. We serve as an ashramic outpost, building a group bridge of Buddhic energy. We evoke the soul of humanity. We envision humanity as being the seed that is flowering. And we prepare the way for the reappearance of the coming one. And now, as we move forward, I'm going to read the seed thoughts that were gathered from our first quarter moon meeting in this Sagittarius cycle. There were 10 seed thoughts from which we have created the topic, directing will and vision, uplifting the whole. And these seed thoughts are: number 1, silence, searching within. Number 2, movement, growth, unfolding. Number 3, aligning and integrating. Number 4, patience with dedicated direction. Number 5, ability to become directed purpose. preparing you for the path up the mountain. Number 6, preparing to become planetary servers. Number 7, the individual and the group, right relationship. The tuning of each individual note to create the chord that comes into harmony. Number 8, as an arrow, may I fly straight to the goal. Number 9, focused determination. Number 10, standing in silence to balance and reconnect with higher and lower kingdoms. And now in the Sagittarius cycle, Judy, Andrea, and Martha are working together as our focalizing group, and they have created the topic today that we're going to be meditating on. And so I am now going to hand it over to Judy, who is going to lead us into our meditation in this cycle. Over to you, Judy.
Thank you, Tracy. Dear friends, we gather together in gratitude and love. So let us align and breathe together as group soul. And settle into the group heart. And strengthen our connection. It is such a joy to be together in this last sign of 2025, to anchor together all that we have received this year. In Sagittarius, the sign of the disciple. It's so powerful and fitting. So let us take a breath. Feel the joy of communion in shared service. Feel our cohesiveness. Expressing as one. Part of the one planetary server. Held together by love for all. We breathe. Today, the vehicle for our meditative work is offered by a Sagittarian Gemini triangle of servers. Ours is an effort to provide a container for bringing forth the energies of Sagittarius and her gifts of intuition and directed purpose, both needed by disciples as we move beyond 2025. Let us hold this idea. In addition to intuition, we are told that another keynote of Sagittarius is, quote, the power to see the vision and direct one's course toward it. In Sagittarius, the intellect, which has been used, developed, and finally illumined, becomes sensitive to a still higher type of mental experience, and to this we give the name intuitive perception. End of quote. As a group soul, let us breathe in the energies of intuitive perception, found on the plane of Buddhi, to support our work. It is here we gather and hold our point of tension. The Earth is the esoteric ruler of Sagittarius. In Gemini, its polar opposite, Earth is the hierarchical ruler. These are the only two signs that has Earth in its rulership. Gemini is a primary source for the energy of the second ray on our planet. It brings forth the idea of duality, of soul and personality. In Sagittarius, this duality is brought into balance. So let us feel into that idea. As an axis, Gemini and Sagittarius work in unison. Their single focus is right relationship. They are found on the mutable cross. Air and fire, mind and will. They share this cross with Virgo and Pisces, the mother and the father, spirit and matter. In its esoteric presentation in Sagittarius, the soul of the earth is hierarchy, the planetary heart center. Sagittarius, streaming through Shambhala, supports hierarchy to perform its soul function, to seed the plan and evolve consciousness within humanity. Breathe. As an outpost of hierarchy, let us fully appreciate this realization and align with the energies of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is positioned between Scorpio, with its tests and trials, and Capricorn, with its mountaintop experience. Appreciate this idea and the sacredness of the bridging work of Sagittarius. Let us breathe out what Sagittarius offers: evolving soul consciousness in humanity. We are told that Sagittarius supports the first, second, and third initiations. Invoking the energies of Sagittarius, see it stimulate aspiration. Moving into Earth through the planetary heart. See soul light lifting serving disciples and bringing them to the third gate. Use the power to vision. And now, people of goodwill, moving from the first to the second initiation. And those within humanity, open to soul impress, moving as a group through the first gate. Hold this vision. Support this unfolding by directing Sagittarian light to all brothers and sisters. I see the goal. I reach the goal, and then I see another. Our topic for today is directing will and vision, uplifting the whole. Direction and vision, both Sagittarian gifts. Uplifting the whole, our work as we move beyond 2025. I see the goal. I reach the goal, and then I see another. Martha found and sent this quote from the reappearance of the Christ. It is a fitting way to end our meditation. Quote, "The new group of world servers are standing attentive to direction in every country in the world, united in their idealism, in their humanitarian objectives, in their sensitivity to soul impression, in their united subjective purpose, in their love of their fellow men, and in their dedication to selfless service. The men and women of goodwill are also to be found everywhere, ready to be guided by constructive activity and to be the agents, gradually trained and educated, for the establishing of that which has never yet before truly existed, right human relations." End of quote. So let us align with the Deva of Sagittarius. And with our great Earth Deva, the Mother of the World. We ask them to support us as we ponder the following questions in an effort to establish right human relations. So our first question, As trained observers, what conditions do you see in expression that create pathways to support right human relations? So take a few minutes. And now let us consider our second question. What is the thought life, quality, and or appearance behind the blockages to right relations, and how do you dissipate them? And our last question. Imagine yourself, ourself, as a Sagittarian arrow. Where are you drawn to direct your aim? So let us take one more minute and then we can begin our sharing. So now let us begin. The floor is open.
I could open. Thank you, everyone, for coming together, and Judy, for your wonderful clarity. I'm going to take a minute to let someone else speak. What I'd hoped to say was that in the first question, and I hadn't thought about it before, where do we see signs that right relationship is opening up? And it occurred to me, it may, it occurred to me that we see the expansion of consciousness all around us. And it's we see it in the development of knowledge. But more than that, the kind of knowledge that applies to love, to being something more than what we ever thought we could be. And I see that in progressive education. I see it in even in the horrors of war. Humans are more and more aware of what lies behind those conditions that create war. So I also see that I think we take one question at a time, Judy. So maybe I should leave it at that.
Either way, but thank you, Martha.
I could jump in. When I think of being a trained observer, I have a vision of being a group that is way up high. And so when I look at the evolution of humanity, even in the last 100 years, that is a tiny blip in evolutionary time. And yet I stand there as that trained observer. And from that perspective, it's incredible to see the conditions that express and create pathways that support right relations. I stand with great patience because, of course, like all of us, we'd like this to happen immediately. And yet, it's extraordinary what has happened in a very short period of time. And so I tend to stand at that place of optimism and recognize that all of God's kingdoms have been recognized and respected increasingly. And I think will continue to be. We focus on the immediate moment, for example, in COP30 and the lack of resolution and new solution, and it tends to make our hearts go, oh. And yet, just the fact that there is COP30 is an extraordinary evolutionary pathway to right relationship with the plant kingdom. It just does. And it does create this weaving together of all of God's kingdoms, just in having humanity focus on the other kingdom of God. So I sort of see time with patient purpose. I tend to be the very optimistic Sagittarian. And so I bring that into the perspective of that first question. And in the second question, again, we see the continuing of selfishness in so much of humanity, and a selfishness that began with self-preservation and just survival. And that's a very deeply ingrained component of each and every human. And again, it's extraordinary to see just that shift that is occurring, where we are recognizing with greater and greater compassion the needs of others. And so again, I see how do we dissipate them? Patiently, by becoming examples of sharing and kindness, listening. And I think that will get us there. And then in terms of where I draw my arrow to shoot right in to the heart of education for children, because it's extraordinary how we have watched that World Wide Web connect us in ways, again, like nothing ever before, where each individual on this earth has an opportunity to voice their opinion, to voice their perspective. And as a result, boy, do we get a lot of those opinions and perspectives which rile us as they differ maybe from our own. And that World Wide Web that has evolved into the establishment and more of AI. But I think AI is going to change the educational system because there's going to be aspects of education and parts of education and traditional education that are going to be much less relevant to study. And there's a part of my heart that goes, no, 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 no. But I look forward and I go, well, those spaces will be filled. And maybe they'll be filled with more psychosocial aspects of humanity, maybe ways that we can really create right relationship by understanding deeply who we all are and where we all come from and why we all present ourselves differently. So my hope to that is that education will evolve to a higher level of understanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's very important that people deal with emotional education in school settings, especially for very young children. But that should carry over. Education of the emotional body as well as mental, and that education be age appropriate for all students all the way through school, and individualized a lot in content, but also involving a lot of group work, so people learn to cooperate. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Well, first of all, I agree with all that's been said, and some of mine will sound rather similar. But I think on question one, Syria can be used as an example because it appears to be changing for the better, and I was pleased to see this week that they are having schools, especially for oh, I'm sorry, I can't think straight still. Schools, especially for sign language for the deaf. And I think that's something that other countries that are supposedly more developed could follow. And religious bias is dropping. Religions are becoming more open to cooperating together. And on to there's a love of the status quo and fear of change that still haunt a lot of people. They can't see that there's any better to be had than they've already had. And of course, nationalism is a great problem. It's still rife everywhere. And on 3, monetary matters are always very important and cause a lot of trouble, and beliefs regarding the right to own land and everything on it. There's several nations seem to be intent on keep grabbing other nations' land for their own. Well, they say it's for their benefit, but I don't know how it can be. But they seem to think it is in some way, probably because there are precious items in the soil in the other countries. And as Andrea and Lynn have both said, education is one of the keys to everything. Thank you.
I could say something. Is it possible to have the questions up again? Or is it just my screen that's just the people?
I'm not able to put them up, but maybe Alexander can.
The first question
Would you like me to read the questions? I have them. So the first question says, as trained observers, what conditions do you see in expression that create pathways to support right human relations?
Oh, thank you.
The second question, do you want me to read them
Well,
all?
I'll just go on the first one first, because I was quite surprised what I saw. I saw and I think it was Martha mentioned the positive things that people are learning from so much war in the world, and I saw how the breaking down of politics is all part of this allowing a growth and of right relationships. It appears like the opposite, but I could see how, like in our country here, we have a lot of antagonism towards the government. We get something, the opposite extreme comes in, and immediately they are slammed, and people want to go back to something even more on the previous politics. And there's this people not being satisfied with politics, and I just saw this as it's a good thing, because people are looking for something else, and this continual fighting between different thought forms is not the answer. You know, it's becoming more apparent that there's got to be some sort of right relations going on. I also am aware of activity in Syria that all looks very positive. I have my fingers crossed. The Christians and the Islam, I saw some snippet the other day of them speaking together at a rally, and saying that how they are cooperating, and that's great. And I think the United Nations has been over there too, but I get the feeling that the United Nations are becoming a bit more united. I know some of you work in that field, so you probably see it more, but it does seem much more positive at the moment than it has done for a while. There was always a lot of criticism, and people sort of United Nations, and I get a sense that is changing. So those are the things I saw on the the first question. The second one was about blockages, wasn't it? Ah, lovely, thank you. What is a thought life quality and appearance behind the blockages to right relations, and how to dissipate them? I'm getting more and more this strong feeling of the necessity to let go of the past, to let go of really of everything one has always held on to, and to observe far more carefully. I felt that observer bit in the first question applied very much to the second question, to really observe what you're thinking, and not only what you're thinking, but why are you thinking? Where are these thought forms coming from? How ancient are they? Are they good that they've survived so long, or are they just blockages to right relations? And I just get the sense that the way to dissipate them is to observe them. And I just feel so strongly this need to let go of well, not necessarily to let go, but to be prepared to let go of all and everything, if that is what is needed to move forward with right human relations. And the arrow, I saw the arrow in the same way, a bit like, these thought forms, little bubbles above people's heads. I saw the arrows popping, these bubbles, just dissipating these rigid ideas of doing things and that things can't change. And actually, in the meditation, I saw this arrow firing saying, "Wake up." And that was the message for the last one. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I have to speak after you because I'm smiling. There's so much synchronicity, I guess, between what you're saying and what I'm feeling and thinking. I have been seeing the pathways as a trained observer in all of the problems. The more we see injustice, and I'll take it at the level of our government, not following the rules, the more we know we need justice. The more we see the society is breaking down because there's no longer rule-based order, we realize that order needs to be created. So you see this undercurrent coming out of all the problems that exist, or at least I'm starting to see them. We're stopping others from coming across the borders. We realize that borders really don't serve anymore. We have the internet, we have the scientific community exchanging ideas. We have economies that are dependent on each other. And so by looking at all of those things that are really trying to survive as the negative, we realize how much of an underswelling underneath there is to move beyond this. When there's such unkindness, just mean-spiritedness, we know that we all desire the goodness from each other. And we smile at people in stores and they smile back. And so, I'm seeing the expression of the pathways happening in the problems that are out there. And I guess when I thought of the second question, in some ways, it kind of follows because certainly as esotericists, we know how to work with glamour and illusion, but just as a heartfelt person, we see that we need to bring our better self to everything that is. We have to get to the point of real community building. That's where I see right relationship happening. And where I draw my arrow is really right into the Sustainable Development Goals. These are the aspirations of humanity, humanity in its more elevated sense. And if they are to materialize, and many countries are working toward making that happen, then there's right relations between communities. There's right relations with our environment, with the waters, with the land, education. It just goes on. It's a vision for what could be. And as our group works with those, it's not the future, it is the now. And it's evolving, and it's slow processes, but you see it. You see it happening. Find things in the news all the time of the changes and of the need to work together. So that's where I see the arrow going for myself. Thank you.
When I hear you, Judy, talking as you did in the beginning, it just makes me smile because, in a sense, all the examples that you gave about the injustice that leads to justice and the just all of what we're seeing in the chaos and maybe the lesser qualities that we're observing are actually our opportunity to be driven towards the higher. And it just reminds us that it's all about harmony through conflict. It is exactly that.
And it's interesting.
Others. Go,
Go.
Katya.
It's just with this opportunity exists. That's true. But it's just I was reminded, during the beginning of COVID, about that. Yes, crisis is an opportunity. If there is this directing arrow, if there is a group, there is a group or greater group, whatever it is, standing there, like working, invoking the energies to support the vision of this opportunity and leaving this opportunity through its own work, through its own life, group life. So it's because opportunities are there, that's for sure, but it's not so like in math, necessary but insufficient. And it's interesting to me that this arrow we're talking about is basically this symbol of Aquarian server. It's not a Sagittarius already. It's when the horse is not needed and the gate is open, and the service that is there is being directed. He becomes a water bearer, as we all have an opportunity to be, and in a sense have a duty to be, or calling to be. So yeah, and I interrupted somebody, so I wasn't sure it was Helen or Kiki. So go ahead.
So I was going to suggest that as as a Sagittarian who doesn't always calculate right timing, however, climbs the mountain and continues to climb when it sees another vision, is this this concept of we the people, because those of us who have opened our hearts, we and see the best in others and made a commitment to give the best that we have, is the source of what's emerging. So I was thinking about Helen's, I think, truthful observation about the United Nations as a community, not as a bureaucracy, not as a structure, but giving the example that Judy gave about the SDGs, I see it as the 21st century 10 Commandments. That imagine if all of us saw ourselves in our own divinity, it would become so much simpler. And in some respects, embracing that divinity in oneself is so about group. It's so about our place in humanity. We are gifted with enormous possibility, and I think sometimes we confuse skill set with higher mind. I do not have the skill sets of the great diplomats. I do not have the skill set of the great financiers. But we together have the skill set of projecting light into all that is good. And that as we recognize that our individualism was a concept that came out of a deep past for survival, as Andrea said, we are empower one another. And it isn't a political thing. We, the people, as it exists on the political level, is not coherent yet. But we, the people, as divinity, are unstoppable. So it brings back that ancient concept of ashram, that our notes are sounding together in the one note. We call for justice in certain situations. We live in mercy in our homes. When we fall back, we start over and do it again and do it better. But more than that, we are enhancing and amplifying those individuals who have enormous skill sets for diplomacy and problem solving, the scientists who are grounding our cosmic perspective into something we we can imagine. So I don't focus on what I am not anymore. I do focus on this gift. I am that. And this I is a one humanity. And it's real. So that's where my arrow goes. However imperfectly it goes and is determined in group. The arrow goes to the group.
Well, just at the end here, I love everything that everyone has said. I think I agree with virtually every word. But just thinking of an arrow, and I did talk about laughing, I did love the 21st century 10 commandments, the UN sustainable goals. I'm going to spread that around. But the arrow I thought was for into the hearts of those who govern us. Thank you.
This is Kathy in Hawaii, and I tend to look at the real deep foundation behind the sign number two, the thought, life, quality, appearance behind the blockages to right relations, and how to dissipate them, and also tied in with the seeing a pathway that has been building and increasing for supporting right human relations. And all of that is tied into the violation of the sacred trust between parents and family members and helpless or very vulnerable children in the epidemic of sexual abuse and the trauma of sexual abuse and violation of that trust. I think that violation goes deeply. I think it affects the soul and is very hard to heal from. And when that violation occurs, when a young person, very young person, toddlers on, infants on up, are violated sexually, that there's a damage that is very, very difficult to repair if even possible in a given lifetime. And when I started sharing that focus with other healers of exposing the epidemic of sexual abuse, that it was 53 years ago when I started focusing on that. And I was, in my 30s, maybe my 40s. I'm almost 80 now. anyway, at that time it was never talked about, and at that time the abuse of the clergy in the Catholic Church, for example, but I'm sure it's possibly everywhere, um, had not been exposed. The degree of sexual abuse that was perpetrated by those people who are in high trust as supposedly the communication and emissary between humans and God, um, that would take advantage of that vulnerability and for their own needs. So the uh, the improvement of that being very conscious about there being um, questions like I noticed on my series I was watching, an Apple TV series, and there was a section of the series that was going to be showing an example of of sexual abuse and sexual assault. And I went, and right before that, they put that notice, and then they said, and if you need help, go to Apple TV, support you, we support you, or something. There was an email address for being able to just access resources for what would come up from witnessing that and being enacted. So the fact that sort of thing exists, and there's so much open talking about it, and there's been so much exposure by very brave, wounded people of violations in the workplace, which as a human resource person, I'm very, very aware of. All of that is part of creating that pathway to support right human relations. But it's just a very foundational thing, and it's a hard thing to understand. I think how damaging that crossing those sexual boundaries, those sovereignty boundaries, those humanity, and is probably a very, very exposure of it, the people stepping forward and arranging, providing um, treatment, the exposure, the ease of the relative ease compared to 53 years ago of getting a safe place to be able to speak up and be sheltered and somehow taken care of has really increased in this country. I'm so anyway so for me the arrow is my aim is at preserving trust, preserving the sacred boundaries of free will for people of every ability, whether they're children or adults or um, handicapped, and I've just seen that growing in my lifetime, and I add my power to that aim. That everything that anything that damages the ability to have that kind of trust and be able to really trust that a safety and the honor of those around us. I think that's the key. So, and certainly everything else that's been shared has been really wonderful as well. So, but this seems foundational to me. So, thank you for your deep listening and the light-filled container that we're in to share this.
Thank you.
In this Ray 4 world we're living in now, we see so much pain. And I just think it's a good idea to remind ourselves that pain is a doorway. Whatever pain we've experienced, it's a doorway. Hopefully, the pain people experience is in some way related to choices they made before they came in, and the experiences that they felt they needed to go through, maybe as former abusers themselves. Just to balance a little bit, because we do see so much pain in so many ways, especially now with the wars that are being pushed on humanity. It's just, I could hardly imagine that there would be a major war again, like with Russia attacking Ukraine. I just couldn't even imagine that there would, at the time, I was blown away. I thought, this can't be happening again. Aren't we way past this? But apparently not. Apparently, as we all know, there are just many lessons to be learned yet, and many things to come to terms with. I think for me, the arrow I see that what I wish was being aimed right now is maybe this doesn't quite fit, but I wish we had more spokespeople that were capable of just simply speaking truth, and that they were given broad access to media, or and I know it has to be worked out. Each of us have to work it out. We can't just expect, again, Pisces age is past. I guess we can't expect again just to have a spokesperson who can tell us what we need to hear all the time. It takes all of us. So I guess, as people have been saying, it's the group that matters. But I would like to see more attention paid to people who just are able to simply speak truly to others' hearts. And I also would like to see the scientific discoveries that are being made now that correlate so well with metaphysical truth. I would like to see those brought more to public attention. Maybe it would undermine our old way of thought too much, but all these quantum ideas are revelation of truth that's totally new to so many of us. I would like to see more of that available to more and more people, with some understanding behind it and some way to relate it to our lives, and the changes that are coming forth in our world around us, and not in a way that scared everyone to death, but in a way that could resolve some of our differences. I guess that's it for now. Thank you.
I have to thank you, Kathy, for bringing in this uneasy subject. And I do believe that actually that's one of the things that would create a path to becoming let's see, to be to create pathway to support human relationships is our ability to see those pathways that actually drive us away from right human relationship as well, because violating and breaking into somebody's ethers and karmic planes and basically using up the energy of the fate, basically. This somewhere I think it's in healing. In the healing, Tibetan says that the soul like does not experience the drama that personality is going through. Even in the hardest of times, the soul, what the soul sees is a missed opportunity, and patiently for eons wait for this opportunity to come again. So, but when we look at it as and trained observers and as a group disciple, we can see those, I would say, those pathways that direct away from the life of the soul. And we can direct our energy to create different ones and support those. Yet, knowing about what's wrong. It is I believe, our job to ask those unpleasant and inconvenient, questions, and to have the answers for that in the group field, and create the path of solution and direct our energy into that path and invoke the aid of those who can support those new paths. And on the level of just simple, help in that regard. I always find that the part of the mantra of unification, the souls of all are one, this part that I seek to love, not hate, I seek to serve and not exact due service, I seek to heal, not hurt. Very helpful. Sometimes I'm in a situation and I just feel that it's just taking life of its own, and so I'm just coming back. So am I exacting your service? Am I hurting? I wouldn't particularly say that I'm hating, but am I loving at the moment? And it's just very balancing, I would say, very balancing anchor, those things, those three statements. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, friends. It's very important questions, and let us continue holding the focus on these questions and on the topic. And we will meet again for the quarter moon meeting to continue our reflection and sharing. So let us now close our meeting, and I invite anyone who feels drawn to sound the mantra to close our work today.
Expressions board link maybe in the chat for everyone, so that if anybody would like to, they can put their impressions and share them with everyone through that during this cycle. I just wanted to remind everyone, it's been very rich sharing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, for reminding. I completely blanked about. Yeah, now the link for the community board in the chat. So please let us use this tool to continue our sharing.
I can close. I am a point of light within a greater light. I am a strand of loving energy within the stream of love divine. I am the way by which men may achieve. I am a source of strength enabling them to stand, and thus I stand. And standing thus revolve and tread this way, the ways of men, and know the ways of God, and thus we stand.